So we're continuing on Pauri number 20 this week. We started by looking at the idea of paap, and Guru Nanak Dev Ji is introducing this concept of external cleansing being very superficial. The cleansing of the body, the cleansing of the clothes. And the idea was that people thought that they needed to purify themselves before they began their worship. But Guruji poses a question, well, what are you going to do with the dirt that you carry around with you all the time? And so we started looking at this idea. Guruji uses the word paap. What is paap? And we looked at a shabad where Guruji talks about paap and pun as two brothers, sin and virtue as two brothers, who when they united together created the universe. And what we understand from that is that the universe is a spectrum of all possibilities. Everything good that can happen, everything bad, these are simply labels that we place on it. Good and bad don't exist. They're simply part of the wide spectrum. So Guruji poses the question, what do you do with the filth of the mind? What soap can you use to clean that? Bharee-ai mat Paapaa ke sang. And we understood that there are many sinners, but there is only one sin. In the previous verses, we talked about asank paapee, paap kar jaaye. The sinners are many, but the sin is one. So we are all in that situation. And the greatest sin, the greatest mistake that we can make is when we forget. When we forget the one and only message that Guruji is trying to teach us, which is everything is one. The oneness is everything. Ik Onkar. Remember that the Guru only has one lesson to teach you. Gura ek dayh bujhai. Guru only has one thing to teach us. Sabna jiyan ka ek data. That's the message. But the hard bit is so main visar na jaye. Let me never forget. And every time we forget, it is a death. It is the worst mistake that we can make. But remember, this mistake is also part of hukm. When Guruji covers in the asank shabads, asank moorak andhkor, the fools who are in this dark, blinding cave, this deep, dark cave, Guruji is talking about all of them as though they are part of the wider hukm. So then Guruji also talks about nako moorak, nako syana. When you understand that everything is part of that oneness, then who can you call the sinner and who can you call the saint? So this understanding is to move our awareness away from identifying with these labels, with accepting certain ideas that we have about ourselves. Bharee-ai mat Paapaa ke sang talks about that your mind is filled with these constant identifications. You identify with yourself, that is your paap. You think you are yourself, that is our sin. We identify with our actions, we identify with our thoughts, with our emotions, with the things that we surround ourselves with. And all of this creates our personality, our character. This is the delusion. This is the sin. We forget to understand that the universe is controlling us. We forget to understand that we are part of a bigger machine, that we are just tiny cogs in one great machine called the universe. And we remind ourselves of this mistake. If the Guru is instructing us to do Naam Simran 24 hours a day, we're doing Simran of our own identity. I am me, myself. I must do this, I must do that. I can't believe I did that. I don't know why this is happening to me. This is the Simran that's going on. Remember, like it or not, we're all meditating 24 hours a day. It's what we're meditating on that Guruji is talking about. We meditate on ourselves 24 hours a day. Guruji wants us to change that habit. So what is the solution to this problem? How do we clean this? Bharee-ai mat Paapaa ke sang, o Dhopai naavai ke rang. O Dhopai means that is washed. This is washed. Or that paap that we're talking about, that Dhopai is washed. Naavai. Naavai means naam. With naam. Naavai ke rang. The word rang literally translates to color, but also means love. So being in love with Naam, constantly washing yourself in Naam, is the soap that we use to clean our mind, our intellect, our identity. We are washing away our identity. Most people say that you use Naam to clean your mind so that you have a clean mind. This is no different to the people before them that were just trying to clean their body. It's this false sense of purity, because with that type of cleaning, what you're left with in the end is another ego, the pure ego, the one that says, I am pure, I am now clean, I have now washed all my sins. Guruji is not trying to give you a pure mind. Guruji is washing away your own identity. And Naam alone isn't enough. Guruji didn't say Naam is how you wash it. Guru said falling in love with Naam. Naavai ke rang. Rang here means love. To drench yourself in Naam. To drown into the ocean of Naam. So imagine the word rang meaning color. And you drown yourself in that color. That color is completely surrounding you. Inside you and outside you, you are bathed in that color. Dye your body, dye your mind, dye your heart in this Naam. And what is Naam? Naam is constantly being aware that this is you. Everything is you. Naam is not his name. Remember, we're not calling somebody external to us. Naam is not his name. Naam is being aware that he is everywhere and everything and everyone at every moment. You have to drown in that realization. This isn't about saying a Naam. This isn't about a mantra. Naam is, on the basic level, a mantra. But a mantra that does nothing to your understanding, to your mind, remains a mantra. The word mantar is to go within the mind, man antar. To take something from your voice and bring it into your mind. Let it really embed your mind. Man antar, mantar. So a word that doesn't penetrate your mind, penetrate your body, penetrate your understanding, remains a word. So naam isn't enough unless you drown in it, unless you drench yourself in naam. When all you can see is naam, that constant awareness, Guru says, is what we need to wash our identity away from ourselves. So as water and soap cleans the body, cleans our stains on our clothes, so the love of naam cleans our self-identity. Guruji goes on. Punnee paapee aakhan naahi. Punnee means, pun means virtuous, punnee means the person who is virtuous. A virtuous person. Paapee is a sinner. If paap is sin, then paapee is one who commits sin. Punnee paapee aakhan naahi. We need to look at the spelling of the word aakhan here. So there's two different spellings of aakhan. The first one has an ankar underneath it, which means it's a noun. The word aakhan means to say. But when we say akhana, what we're talking about is an action, to say something. In Gurbani, that's spelt with a sehari. A verb to do something is usually spelt with a sehari. A name of something is spelt with an ankar. Here the spelling is with an ankar. So a lot of the times you'll see in your translations something that is mistranslated in this line. And the way it's mistranslated is they use this spelling, aakhan, the incorrect spelling. Most of the time you will say, Punnee paapee aakhan naahi, you will see this translation that says, I cannot speak about who is a punnee and who is a paapee. The punnee and paapee cannot be spoken of. But that would have to use this spelling, because to speak of something is to do something, is an action. But that's not the spelling in Gurbani. So you need to be aware when you see incorrect translations. It implies I cannot mention how many people are punnee, how many people are paapee. Some people also say, I cannot say how many paapees have become punnee. Punnee paapee aakhan naahi. I cannot describe how many sinners have become pure. But aakhan naahi uses a different spelling. Here, aakhan means to say. Punnee paapee aakhan naahi. That to be a sinner or a saint, to be sinful or virtuous, isn't just a label. Aakhan naahi is not a saying, is not a phrase, is not a label you can put on someone. Punnee paapee aakhan naahi. It's not a label that you can put on someone. That fits with this spelling. Just by calling yourself pure doesn't make you pure. Just by calling yourself a sinner doesn't make you a sinner. These aren't labels that we can put on ourselves. If you believe yourself to be a sinner, you go and do some actions, and then you say, I am now free of my sin. I am now pure because I've done these actions. That alone isn't enough. Calling yourself by a label isn't what the true meaning of these words punnee and paapee are. What does Guruji say is the true meaning? Punnee paapee aakhan naahi, karnaa likh le jaahu. Karnaa. Doing and doing is what writes the real name down. What you do is what counts, not what you say you do. Kar means doing and doing. Karna means that which you do. By continuously doing, something is written down. Let's go into this a little bit more. Guruji has made it clear that what you call yourself is irrelevant. What you do with yourself is what actually ends up being written down. You write your fate by your actions, not by what you say you are. The line continues, and in order to understand this, we have to go to the next line. Aapay beej, aapay hi khaahu. Aapay, you yourself. Beej, notice beej has a sihari. It doesn't mean seed. In Punjabi, the word beej means seed. But if it meant you are a seed, the beej would have an ankar. But what is the verb here? You plant the seed. Aapay beej with a sihari. As you sow, so shall you reap. Aapay beej, aapay hi khaahu. What you plant is what you eat. As you sow, so you shall eat. As you act, so you shall receive. Aapay beej, aapay hi khaahu. There's two things being mentioned here. One is your perception of yourself. One is the actual reality of what you do. How you think you are is different to how you actually are. We talked about earlier how none of us think that we're sinners. In the last session, we said that we can even accept that we are a criminal, but never accept that we're a sinner. So we have a different idea of what we are. But Guruji says, actually, let's talk about what you do, not what you think you do. Your perception of yourself is very important here. What you think you are determines how you act. That's why your perception and your actions are both being talked about here. How you think you are, what you think of yourself, determines how you act. If you didn't used to be religious in the past, you took a label upon yourself that says, I'm not one of those religious people. And because I'm not one of those religious people, it allows me to do certain actions. Religious peoples don't go clubbing. Religious people don't smoke and drink. Religious people don't stay out all night. That's my perception of religious people. Because I don't identify with that, it means I'm allowed to do all those things. Your idea of who you think you are determines what actions you perform. And then one day you had a eureka moment and you realized you were religious. Then you have to leave all the things that the non-religious people do behind. Why? Because your label of yourself has changed. You now think you're religious, and because you think you're religious, where you used to stay up all night and go clubbing, now you get up early and go to the temple, to the gurdwara, to the church, to the mosque. Where you were having one type of sangat, you've now replaced that with a different type of sangat. Where does all of that change come from? Where does all of that new inspiration comes from? It comes from a change within yourself. First, you identify with a new way of living. And you say, I don't identify with my old self anymore. That's not who I am anymore. If you see yourself as a sinner, you will act as a sinner. A way to think about it: as you perceive, so you receive. What you think is what you become. How you see yourself is how you will manifest yourself. And how we see ourselves defines everything that we do. But Guruji is making it clear, let's have a real understanding about what we're defining ourselves as. If we define ourselves as a sinner, does that mean we are? But more importantly, punnee. If we define ourselves as pure and religious and spiritual, does that mean you actually are spiritual? Are you a saint by saying that I'm no longer a sinner? Guru says your actions will decide. So how we act is based on our thoughts, our mind, our thinking, our self-identity, our self-perception. Notice here, this is the thing that needs to be washed. Guruji started by talking about this analogy of washing. Pauri-ai mat Paapaa ke sang. What is the paap? Your self-identity is the paap. O Dhopai naavai ke rang. That's the answer there. But Guruji always wants to help us a little bit more. Let's understand this paap even further. Let's understand this self-identity even further. How you think you are determines how you act, and how you act determines the whole universe around you and how the universe reacts to you. The consequences of your actions are also based on your identity. Nothing is without consequence. They say every action has a reaction. Every action has a consequence. This is the real meaning of karam. What is karam? What is karma? The way we act has a certain outcome, has a certain consequence. Most people think of karam like if I do something to someone, the universe has to pay me back in the same way. If I hit someone, if I swear at someone, if I do something bad to someone, if I steal from someone, at some point, the universe will do exactly the same back to me. That is the misconception of karam. If I hit you, at some point either you will hit me or somebody else will hit me. If I steal from you, either you will steal from me or somebody else will steal from me, and then I'll say, that's my karam. But that's not what karam's talking about. Because if we think about it, in reality, it never works that way. So we have this idea of what karam is, that if I do something, the universe will do exactly the same back to me. And when we know in reality that doesn't really happen, when we've seen time and time again people who commit certain acts get away with them, then we say, well, karam is still going to get him. Maybe karam will get him in the next life. We don't change our thinking of karam, we just delay the karam. When something bad happens to us that we can't explain, then we say, oh, it must be to do with my pichle karam, my past lives, my past actions. Because I must have done this to someone in order for this to be happening to me. So we don't understand karam, we don't change our idea of karam, because everyone says it, so it must be true. We just defer it. We say, okay, he'll get what's due to him in his next life. Or the Sikhs like to say, Maharaj will do something. Maybe in Sachkhand, he won't be allowed. Maybe he'll get his punishment after he dies. This is not what karam is. Karam means that which you do has a consequence. If I hit you, you may never hit me back, but that will change how you are. That will change your life. My one action can have a ripple effect on your life, how you treat other people, how you treat me, what happens to you as a person. All of that is my karam. So my karam isn't that I do something to you. My karam isn't that my action to you will have an opposite and equal reaction. My karam is by the very act of doing something to you, every consequence after that is my karam. Everything that happens after that is a direct result of my action that I did towards you. That is karam. That is what we need to understand. The responsibility that comes with that is that at every opportunity you have to say something to someone, every opportunity you have to think, every opportunity you have to act, you're aware of that debt that you collect every time you do something. In Gurmukhi, we have a very interesting phenomenon. Gurbani uses the word karam to mean your actions. Where we talk about karam as the reactions, Gurbani uses the word karam to mean your actions. Your actions are your karam. Not the things that come back to you, but the very things that you do is your karam. Because every time you do something, it has a ripple effect. That is the meaning of karam. So here, when we talk about your perception being the instigator of your actions, Guruji says, let's not talk about your actions. Let's talk about the thing that's defining your actions. Your self-identity, what you think you are, defines what you do. What you do defines how everything else works around you. So it all starts with, who do I think I am? That is your paap. That is our sin. Let's think about our actions. The common understanding of paap is to do something wrong. Let's think a little bit about whatever it is that we think we're doing wrong, why we do it. The reason we do things time and time and time again, even though we may label them as wrong, why do we keep doing them? We know we're doing something wrong, but we still do it. Let's say it's anger. Let's say we have a bad temper. We keep doing it. And afterwards we regret and we say, I shouldn't have done it. But we do it again and again and again. The same is true for stealing. The same is true for obsessions with maya, with materialism, with lust. The same is true every time. The reason we do it again and again and again is because they've become a habit. So we need to understand, why do habits form? Even when we know we want to break our habits, why can't we break them? So then we have to understand our habits. What is a habit? A habit is a decision that you no longer have to make. The first time you make that decision, there is a choice. You're walking down a road, you can either choose the left path or the right path. The moment you've chosen the left path, that first decision is difficult. That's the first time that you really have to apply some thought. The second day, that decision becomes a little bit easier. The third day, the fourth day, the fifth day, eventually you walk down that road, you don't even see the right path, you only see the left path. Because it's become habit. You don't even need to think about it anymore. This is how our actions work. We do something in the mornings, we wake up, we don't think about whether we need a tea or a coffee. We just go for that same thing that we always do. The first time it was a decision, but every time after that it's habit. A habit is a decision that you no longer take. It's just something that habitually happens. It happens automatically. When a habit continues for so long that you can no longer say no to it, that's when a habit has become an addiction. An addiction is simply anything that you can't say no to. A habit you might still be able to say no to. But an addiction is something no matter how much you try, the habit is so deep-rooted within you that you're unable to say no. You're unable to stop that action. That's where habits become addictions. You know, when water flows, when a river flows downstream, they say it takes the path of least resistance. When a river flows, it doesn't try and go the difficult way. It goes the easiest way, wherever it can just flow easily. Our minds work in the same way. Our mind doesn't like to be challenged most of the time. For simple things, we don't like our habits to be challenged. That's why even though we're saying no to our habits, secretly, we don't really want them to be changed. And our sin of forgetting the oneness has become our biggest habit. And our addiction to the world and the way we understand the world and the way we understand ourselves is something so hard to say no to that the world has now become our drug. Our ego and our self-identity is our biggest drug. We are addicted to our own self-identity. We love ourselves. We love our self-identity. We love being who we are. We're addicted to it. We love the way we live, the things that we buy, our quirky little habits. We don't mind them. We love them. We're addicted to them. We say, what are you going to do? This is who I am. Our habits have become part of our self-identity. So Guruji isn't just trying to clean your body, isn't just trying to clean a little bit of sin off you. Guruji, when he talks about Pauri-ai mat Paapaa ke sang, he's not talking about your anger, he's not talking about your greed, your lust, your addictions. That's not the paap that Guruji is interested in. He is interested in the source of the paap. What makes those sins happen? What makes those sins occur? Your very idea of who you think you are is what Guruji wants to wash away from you. Because who you are, who you think you are, stops you from realizing what you really are. As long as we identify with our individual selves, we don't have to be the Brahmgyani. We don't have to be the saint. We can be heading in that direction, but we can keep some of our paap. We can keep some of our habits. I'm not a Brahmgyani. I'm not a saint. Nobody in my family would accept me if I had decided to become a saint. What are people going to say? How will I go to work? So we don't really want to be a saint. We're happy being the paapee a little bit. A little bit of paap we say is okay. But Guruji is saying it's one or the other. You're either in or you're out. You're either you or you're him. Which one are you? Jab hum hote, tab tu nahi. When I am me, I am not you. But when I'm you, then me no longer exists. It's one or the other. And Naam is the medicine. Naam is the very thing that can help re-identify ourselves. We've accepted our sins. So the question is, what do we do with our sins? What should we do with our impulses? Should we say, okay, I'm going to decide to be a saint now? Is that the direction we're heading? How would we act if we decided, right, from tomorrow morning I'm going to be a saint? All we're doing is giving ourselves a new label. And we would give ourselves new actions. Okay, what would a saint do in the morning? Let me do all those actions. So it's very difficult. Remember in the last verse where we talked about this Shabad about Paap and Pun being two brothers, joined twins. If you're running away from Paap towards Pun, Paap is never far behind, he's just round the corner. So if you restrict yourself, think about it. Think about how many times you've gone on a diet. Think about how many times you've tried to break a habit. How long does it last? A couple of days, a week, 2 weeks, a month at most? You wouldn't need to have New Year's resolutions every year if you stuck to the resolutions that you made in the first place. But we can't. Our habits creep back in. So if you try to wake up tomorrow morning and be a saint, it'll last for a couple of days, and then your habits kick back in. All of your temptations come back. The novelist Oscar Wilde said, I can resist everything except temptation. So we can try and be as saintly as we can, but all the habits kick back in. So what do we do? What's the solution? If we accept, okay, this is the way I am, and I can't just switch it off, and I can't just say tomorrow I don't want to be this person, I want to be that person. Because remember, punnee, paapee, aakhan, naahi, these aren't just labels. You can't just call yourself something new tomorrow and hope that it's going to be the start of a whole new beginning. What do we do? How do we get rid of our old habits? Guruji says, make Naam your habit. Start a new habit. Make Naam your habit. If you get up every morning and bathe yourself with soap, if you get up every day and you bathe your clothes and wash your clothes with detergent, what are you washing your mind with? Don't worry about how it's going to look after it's washed. Actually start washing. But we don't want that. We want to say, I'm wearing the sinner clothes today, tomorrow I want to be the saint. But where is the process of washing. Where is the effort? You have to do something. Guru Nanak Dev Ji says, make naam your habit. What does this mean? Let's think about how we act. When an impulse arrives, at that point, what do? Guruji says, make naam your habit. When an impulse arrives that we're trying to stop, what we would normally do is we would just try and cut that impulse. Whatever the impulse is, whatever the habit is that you're trying to break, our normal reaction is to say, I'm going to restrict myself, I'm going to stop myself. It's like when you have some chocolates in front of you, and if you say, every day I eat chocolates, today I'm going to restrict myself. How long does that last? So our normal reaction to an impulse is to restrict that impulse, is to suppress it. That is what we call going from sinner to saint. But if we're saintly for one moment, the sinner comes back. That's not the solution. Guruji says, at that point when the impulse arrives, make naam the response. And by naam, we don't mean, okay, stop thinking about it, let me just do Waheguru Simran. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about naam, the awareness. Let's just stop for a moment and be aware. See, when you're waiting for that chocolate, you're not in the moment. You're in the next moment when that chocolate is going to touch your mouth, when that taste is going to come into you, when that impulse is going to be satisfied. So your mind is not in the moment, it's in the future. And until that is satisfied, you remain in that future. Guruji says, make naam your response. Come back to the present moment and just be. Breathe. Observe. Be in a moment of realization. This is neither going towards your impulse or restricting your impulse. This is neither. We're not indulging in our impulse and we're not restricting our impulse. We're simply stopping just for a moment to observe, to be present. Recognize the thought that has come in. Rather than reacting straight away, how many times when an impulse comes in, straight away we think we have to act on it. But we never actually stop and think, okay, the thought has come. Doesn't mean I have to do anything about it, it's just a thought. Out of nowhere, the thought has just floated into my mind. Most of the time when you're getting bored, you're sitting in front of a computer screen at work, it's been several hours, you think, I need a break, I know I'll go for coffee. Oh wait, I said I wasn't going to have any coffee. Or I said I wasn't going to have any chocolate. Now you've started a battle. Which one is going to win? Some days the chocolate wins, some days your saint wins, the one that can resist. Guruji says, don't engage in that battle. Step back, watch, observe. Be in the present moment of naam. And just enjoy the moment. Just take a moment. It's like taking a break from yourself. Take a moment to just enjoy the moment. Breathe it in. Live 100% in that moment. Savor the taste of that moment. Drown and dissolve yourself into the awakened state of that moment. Be awake in the moment. That is O Dhopai naavai ke rang, being drenched in the love of that present realization. That is the solution. Not to fight the impulse, not to restrict the impulse, or to engage in that impulse. Simply accept it as a thought that's come in and then say, oh, I don't need to engage with that thought, because that thought takes me away from now. That takes me into the future. I can't wait till I get it. I can't wait till I have it. That's somewhere else. Naam is now, in the moment. Remember, your actions aren't the problem. Guru doesn't really care whether you have that coffee or whether you have that temptation or that chocolate. Your actions aren't the problem. It's your awareness that's the problem. It's your thinking. It's where is your thinking right now? Where is your mind right now? Because you could be eating that chocolate and doing Naam Simran. You could be drinking that coffee and doing Naam Simran at the same time. That's what Guruji wants. Guru doesn't care what you consume. Aapay, beej, aapay, khaahu. Nothing to do with me. So if our mind is filled with the addiction of the self, if it's filled with the sin of self-identity, stepping away from that into the moment of now, into the awakened state, which is Naam, that is the solution. You have a false association about who you are. Naam is realigning you back and saying, you are nothing but something that is present here now. That's all you are. You are a person that is here now. You are not your past. You are not your future. You are what you are doing right now. What you're doing right now is what counts. And now is the only moment you have. If you don't savor in that moment, if you don't drown, if you don't fall in love with the moment, then you've lost it. That moment has gone. Every moment is an opportunity to be present. So the question is, are we talking about something that is completely opposite to what the Guru has said before? Hukmee andar sabko, bahar hukm na koi. Because that's the other way to think. That says, actually, Guruji, this is how you made me. Thank you very much. I'll go and have that chocolate now. I don't need to question how you made me. I don't need to worry about whether I'm a sinner or a saint. That's how you've made me. That's what we've been learning all this time. Accept hukam, accept who you are. Now is Guruji telling us, be aware, be present, change. If you're like this, you should be like that. Which one is it? Is everything hukam? Or do we reap what we sow? Do we have free will? Do we have the opportunity to create our destiny? Aapay, beej, aapay hi khaahu. As you sow, so you shall reap. Which one is it? Guruji gives the answer. Nanak hukmee aavhu jaahu. All of this coming and going, all of this left and right, moving from one side of the spectrum to the other side of the spectrum, that's hukam as well. This little mind game that you're having with yourself, am I a sinner, am I a saint? That's hukam as well. Nanak says, by the way, it's not really about you. It's all part of the hukam. This little ego trip that we go on, I used to be a sinner, now I'm a saint. Today, what shall I do? Shall I restrict myself? Should I give in to temptation? You might not be in hukam, you might not be aware of hukam, but hukam is aware of you. Hukam is doing this through you. This is the game of hukam. Your indecisiveness, your swinging from left to right, aavhu jaahu, coming and going. You don't know if you're coming and going. But Guruji is saying this is all part of hukam. Nanak hukmee aavhu jaahu. By the command, we come and we go. Whether that's in every moment or in life. All of our comings and goings is part of the bigger game. All of our success and our failure isn't dependent on what we do, isn't dependent on our actions, isn't even dependent on our ability to clean our self-identity. It's actually dependent on hukam. Understanding this wisdom is not your doing. Being here listening to this katha right now isn't your doing. It's your hukm. You didn't bring yourself here. You're not listening to these words. Because if you are, then you're adding to that sin. I am here. I'm bettering myself. Look how religious I'm being. This is all part of hukm. So Guruji has introduced quite a lot of concepts, like he does in every single verse. So much for us to go away and think about. The main message is external cleansing is irrelevant. Of course, keep yourself clean, keep your clothes clean, but this isn't where purity lies. If your very self-identity is stained, then what good is it that your body and your clothes are clean? What religious act have you achieved? Your very self-identity is something that needs to be addressed. Naam is the cure. But getting Naam, don't for one moment think that you have the ability to get Naam or to practice Naam or to do Naam or to be in Naam. Nanak hukmee aavhu jaahu. All of this always goes back to hukm.